Today's special guest is Tuan. You can find him on Twitter as @AirForceTuanNFT. He is an NFT anime artist born in Geneva, Switzerland, to Vietnamese parents, and he is currently living in Tokyo, which I find so interesting. In today's space, we will be asking him questions about himself as an NFT artist and everything about his current and upcoming project. We hope you all enjoy today, and let's get to it. To start this interview, I would like to say again, thank you for accepting our invitation, Tuan, and could you please give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Yes, hello, good morning. How are you, Ezra? Oh, the connection seems
I
to
think we
be...
can.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's having issues with her connection. In the meantime, I guess we can get started. I'm a co-worker of her. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Jesus, how are you, man?
So far, so good, mate. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for having me.
If I understand correctly, you are speaking all the way from Japan, right?
Yes, exactly. It's 9:10 in Tokyo right now.
But you don't sound like typical Japanese. I'm sorry if this touches a stereotype, but the way you pronounce and your English seems to be native.
Oh, really? No, actually, I'm from the French-speaking part of Switzerland, so I should have a very
awesome.
I should have a very strong French accent, actually. But thank you.
So I guess your French is way more dominant than your German.
Oh yes, definitely. I cannot speak German at all.
I see. Okie doke. So thank you very much for the introduction. I'm trying to get Ersa back. In the meantime, I guess we can get started. As you mentioned, we do this quite often. We are dedicated to getting to know different NFT collections and talk to people who are Web3 enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
We usually run them with a very large amount of questions.
So all right.
Let's get started.
All right.
Let's go ahead and have yourself introduce yourself, how it is this started, what is your vision about NFTs, why is the art representative of your collection?
Okay, so, well, nice to meet you, everyone. So my name is Tuan. Thank you for having me in this space. And I was born and raised in Geneva, Switzerland. And I have been living in Tokyo for a little bit more than 7 years now in total. And I've been working here as an illustrator. So actually, I've been working as an anime manga illustrator since 2007. So it's been a while already. And the other thing is, unfortunately, in 2016, things went quite sour with my art business. And I had to get another job. So that's the reason why that I also work as a part-time English teacher in Japan now. And otherwise, I have three main collections, NFT collections. So there's one, I think it's my main one is 80s Baby. It's on Algorand, and there are 46 pieces for the moment. And I'm very happy about it because it's sold out on the primary market. And the secondary market, even if it's a bear market right now, it's still kind of dynamic. And I have another collection on Algorand, but this is a hentai collection. So I am working on the 6th piece at the moment. And otherwise, I have another collection on OpenSea, and it's called Front Innocent. And it's a little bit different than what I do on Algorand. It's more like intimate work, a little bit deeper, more personal work, basically. And I think that's
cool.
Yes, and I think that's it.
Awesome. So if I gather, you have several collections, and the first one was full sold out, right?
Exactly.
I think this was not computer generated. This is something you drew yourself.
Right? Yeah. Everything is hand drawn, non-generated. All the characters are like different poses and all that. I mean, it's basically a character design job every time I create a piece, you know. So I have no problem with generative art, you know, with the big collections with thousands of pieces. But I think since I started working as an illustrator for such a long time, being a traditional artist at first, you had to do everything by hands, you know. And after that, I discovered digital art by using Photoshop and that kind of softwares. But everything that I do with a computer, I know how to do it by hand. You know what I mean. So
That's great. Yeah.
so I think that my statement as an artist is that I want to create a huge collection, especially with 80s baby, only by drawing everything by hand, you know. So again, no disrespect to generated art. They're like very nice collections, but according to my vision of art and what I want to do, I'm just not the right audience for that, you know. So I really want to do my thing and tell everyone, look, you can do a big collection as well by doing everything all by hand, and that's it.
That's a great comment. Ursa, are you back?
Yes, I think so. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you now. Okay, so before we go back to you, I want to just compliment the comment that we just got, because I think it's an interesting one. If we're speaking about NFTs, I think ideally an NFT is a conjunction of the art and also the utilities, right? But I think based on the comment, you are more organized or oriented towards the art itself, which is great, you know?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, because I was very surprised, and I think that it's probably because I am very unaware of like maybe crypto culture in general, because the reason why I decided to enter a Web3 and the NFT space was because that was another way for me to create and promote my art. And I used to use like the traditional ways, like going to exhibitions, having a booth or something like that, like even during like I don't know, anime conventions or in a bar, like sometimes you could find me in a bar trying to sell my books and my t-shirts and stuff like that. So I have done a lot of things like I don't want to say the hard way, but the traditional way. So my vision has always been like, I want people to appreciate my art, because when I sell one of my art books, there's only art inside of it. You're not going to get anything else. So for me, it was like, all right, I hope that within the NFT space, I will also be able to promote my art the right way. And maybe someday, if things get like much better, bigger, I will be able to give like some utilities as well. But for the moment, it's just that I don't feel like I'm able to manage to do that, because that requires a lot of investment, a lot of time as well. And it already takes me like so much time for a single piece, So, and I have my other jobs on the other hand, because I basically have 3 jobs in Japan at the same time. So yeah, I'm still trying to find moments, and I'm still like fighting in order to get my art known to for as many people as possible. And yes.
Of course. Thank you for sharing that. And Tuan, I have a question for you. When were you first attracted to art and anime?
Like since I was a kid. So actually since I was 3 years old, I'd say, because well, the thing that many people don't know is that can you hear me?
Yeah,
you can hear me. Okay. So the thing is that France, because I'm from the French-speaking part of Switzerland, and I live next to France, basically. So actually, Japan is, of course, the #1 country when it's about Japanimation, manga culture. And the second country in the world is actually France. So that's the reason why that already in the 80s, we had a lot of anime on French TVs. So all the animes were dubbed. We had stuff like Captain Tsubasa, like Arale, Dragon Ball, of course, Saint Seiya, and everything was on French TV. I think around 1988. So it's been there for a while. So I basically grew up with anime. And the interesting thing is, as a kid, because I have a Vietnamese background, but I was born and raised in Switzerland. in a predominant white people's country with a Western culture. And my parents, they really wanted me to find my place in the Swiss society as a Swiss person as well. So they were telling me all the time that, all right, the way we eat at home, the way we dress at home, like eating like huge rice bowls with chopsticks. When you go out and you're with your Swiss friends and you're invited to your Swiss friend's house for lunch and stuff like that, just try to keep secret the way we live, because they wanted to be sure that my brother, because I have an elder brother, they just wanted to be sure that we could find our place in the Swiss and Western society. But when I was home, I could watch anime on TV, like anime such as Maison Ikoku or Ranma as well. And the way these anime are depicted are very representative of Japan life in the 80s of the Showa era. And I could see people like, oh, but they live like us at home, they sit on the floor, they eat with chopsticks, and they share all the dishes on the table. So for me, that was also a way to find like I don't know, like a place where like, oh, everything is like so familiar, I can relate to that. So I think this is also one of the reasons why that as a kid, from a very early age, I was attracted by anime, because I felt like I was sharing the same culture in a way as the characters.
And that's curious because you come from a lot of backgrounds and a lot of cultures. What was it about the Japanese culture that made you fall in love with it so much?
That's a very good question, because uh, my first time to Japan was a mistake, actually. Of course, I've always wanted to go to Japan because, actually, even as an anime fan, that has never been my dream to go to Japan. Like, oh, I like Naruto, so I want to go to Japan to eat ramen like him, or even if I like video games as well. I was basically more attracted by the United States because my first passion is actually rap music, is hip hop and all that. So for quite many years, even if I was like always drawing with an anime style, I always wanted to go to the US. I wanted to get like the freshest clothes, to buy the latest album of this artist and all that. And that was really my very first passion at heart. And basically, I actually started my career as an illustrator by working with rappers in New York. So I know it sounds like very strange, because it's not like very geeky or nerdy, I would say. But I started working with people in New York coming from Queensbridge projects, and a lot of famous artists, they come from there. You have Nas, you have Mobb Deep, you have all these people coming from Queensbridge projects. So this is how I started drawing for many people there, mixtape covers, album covers, visuals, and all that. So I was mostly focused on New York and America. But eventually, back in 2008, 2009, I was a member of a whiskey club. So I know it sounds strange again, but I was really into whiskey as well. And with one of my best friends, our plan was to go during the summer of 2009 to Scotland with his, he had like a small pickup slash bus, and he kind of customized it by adding a kitchen, a shower system, a bed. So our plan was like, all right, we're going to take the bus, go to Scotland from Switzerland, and just visit all the different whiskey distilleries there. But eventually, my friend, he was too busy because of his university studies, and he said, "All right, sorry, dude, but we have to cancel the trip to Scotland." And I found myself without any plans. I had saved some money for the trip, and my brother, him again, came to me and was like, "Oh, I know your trip to Scotland was canceled, so how about coming to Japan with me?" And my brother went to Japan in 2008 already, so he was like, "Oh, I really liked it, so I want to go back this year." And I was like, "Okay." So I just joined him. I came with him, but to be honest, that's so weird, because I had like no interest in the trip basically. The only thing I told him was I want to go to Kyoto, and that's it. That was my only request. But otherwise, I didn't open a guide. I didn't know anything about the local food. Of course, like the sushi, the yakitori, and stuff like that. But I really had no interest because I was like, damn, I wanted to go to Scotland to drink whiskey there. So I was kind of frustrated and disgusted. But eventually, well, this first trip to Japan was a huge shock. Actually, I never expected that. I never expected to fall in love with the country, the hospitality, people's kindness, the culture in general, and I felt very at ease because before that, every time I was traveling to Asia, like Vietnam, I went to Hong Kong, different places. I can understand that in these places, people are struggling a lot. They're developing countries, so they're trying to, make you pay things a little bit more expensive, or they try sometimes to steal things from you. I don't want to judge, but this is a reality. So when I arrived in Japan, and before that, I was used to traveling to America, and every time I was like in, I don't want to say hostile environments, but you had to be careful. Like, oh, maybe someone is going to come to you and try to rob you and stuff like that. And especially as I told you that I was really into the hip hop environment before. But when I say hip hop, it's not like the cool hip hop. That was more like hood, gritty, grimy environment. So I was like, all right, I'm in a country. I don't know anything about them in Japan, so I thought that maybe these people they try to steal something from me. Maybe they're not honest and stuff like that. But that was the complete opposite, actually. Like people are so honest, they're so loyal as well. So I was like, oh gosh, I can let my guard down and just relax and enjoy. So that's the reason why that now, whenever I go out, I go to a party, I go to a club, I go to bars here in Tokyo. I'm just having fun because you know that you don't have to be worried or you don't have to be um, suspicious about anything or anyone. And yeah, so this is how I fell in love with Japan, mainly because of people.
Yeah, I do think that people are a huge component of a city's nature.
Mhm.
Like basically a city cannot be as pleasant to the eye as other city, but if the people are nice and caring and loving, you probably feel way better than if you were at a beautiful city that is just the people are off. They're very very different and sometimes hostile.
Yeah,
It's funny how you mentioned that sometimes unexpected things end up being the best things. And on that line of thought, I'd like to ask you: Is this art thing something that you decided, or did it sort of come your way? Did you go to a formal university? Did you learn by yourself? How did it go?
yeah, exactly. So I went to university in Geneva and I studied. I majored. I have a bachelor degree in political sciences and a master degree in communication and media slash journalism. So it's not art related at all. And I have never studied art. I have never been to an art school. It had always been something that I was doing for fun, just for myself. And for me, to be honest with you, things were very clear from the start when I was a university student. I was saying to myself, like, all right, like, my friends, they were working in bars or they were working in supermarkets to, as part timers to get a little money. But in my case, I was already accepting art commissions to get a little money. So I was like, all right, it's just going to be my life during my studies. But from the moment I will be graduated, I will get a normal job and that's it. But yeah, it's just that everything actually led me to art because, well, things are, it's a little bit hard to say, but in 2011, I was living in Tokyo already. And unfortunately, I had to go back to Switzerland in an emergency because my mom was sick. She had cancer. So I stayed by her side at the hospital, and after 3 months, she eventually passed away. So I found myself back in Switzerland at that time, end of 2011 because my mother actually died around Christmas. So that's Christmas time. And then my birthday is in February. So, you're like, damn, I'm back in Switzerland. And I had like my girlfriend in Japan. I had a job proposition as well. I had my small apartment. I mean, I was trying to build something already. And then, bam, you lose everything. You're back in your home country. It could have been worse, because Switzerland is a great country, but you just lost your mom, and I couldn't find any job. So at that time, I found myself working as a bartender at night, and the bar was located in not a nice area of Geneva. So you had a lot of drug addicts, drug dealers. Sometimes you had fights in front of the bars or even inside the bar. So you had to manage it. And I was also working as a janitor in the mall. So that was kind of weird because at that moment already, I mean, I'm not saying that I was famous or anything, but as a local person in Geneva, I mean, I was in the Swiss newspapers, I was invited to national radios and stuff like that. So people who were into manga and people who were into illustrating and drawing, they knew who I was, especially in Geneva, because Geneva is a very small city. But yeah, I was not working as an illustrator anymore at that moment. I was sweeping floors. I was serving drinks to people. And every time, people, they see your face and they're like, hey, you're not the illustrator? I saw you in the newspaper. What are you doing here? And I was like, they're, we don't have to be ashamed by our jobs or anything like that. But like being in Japan, working as an illustrator, and then you lose your mom, you lose your job, you lose your situation, you lose everything. That was pretty harsh. So I'm sorry, I forgot why I started to talk about all these kind of things. Can you remind me what was the main question before that?
Yeah, the question was if you were formally educated into art, but I got the answer. It's something you drifted towards based on life circumstances. I got it.
Yeah, and actually, this is what I wanted to say is I had this very difficult situation, and I wanted to find a job. Like, all right, I'm back in Geneva. I have my university certificates, diploma. I want to get a job, but I couldn't find anything, even with a master degree. So every time that was like, oh yeah, you for a year and a half, you have to do an internship. You're gonna get paid this, or you're not gonna get paid. And at that time, like as I told you, I was working as a bartender and as a janitor, and I was living in a garage. I lived in a garage for 6 months, and I was like, how do you want me to survive and to live? And actually, people they were still asking me to draw things for them, and I was like, all right, you know what? Since the normal society in a certain way doesn't want to give me a job, I'm just going to start my own activity as an illustrator. And then things started to get better and better. Like I was on a roll. I started working for a video game company. Then I was working for an animation studio as well. And then I was like, okay, I only live off my art, and it lasted for like 4 years like that. So that's the reason why I could work as an illustrator.
And I'm sorry. And coming from someone without any artistic background, what kind of strategies did you use to self teach yourself all the skills needed?
Wow, this is a good question. Actually, I had no strategies. I think it's just that as a kid, I loved, I always loved creating. I always loved drawing, and not only drawing, but also making movies with my friends. Just being creative. And I think it's just the love of it that helped me to progress and to eventually reach a certain level as well. And I have the feeling that many young people nowadays they want to get recognition as soon as possible, you know. So now we have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all these platforms. So it's very easy to get that feeling of reward because you see the number of views, you see the number of likes as well. But when I see the skills of these people, I don't want to be judgy or anything. I mean, that's great if they can have like hundreds of thousands of followers and stuff like that. But many of them, they I don't know, they publish like artwork that get like thousands of views, thousands of likes, but they don't get real money in the end, you know. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm getting my likes, so that's enough. That's my reward. Oh, look at that. I'm Twitter famous. I'm Instagram famous. But I don't have the feeling that they really love what they do. They love getting the recognition. They love being rewarded. But do they really love drawing and creating? I'm not sure it's the priority anymore. But in my case, that was my fuel.
Well, I guess we could drift off and just talk for this topic about like 2 hours or so, but I'll try to stick to the script that we already have.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe I'll come back to that because I do have a question related to that. Any particular mangaka or style that inspires you?
Oh, yes, definitely. So during my high school years, I really liked Nobuhiro Watsuki, thanks to Rurouni Kenshin. So I think that when I was a kid, the mangaka who, of course, had the biggest influence on me was Akira Toriyama. And that was mainly because I basically learned how to draw with a manga and anime style by copying a lot of his illustrations or pages in Dragon Ball mangas. But after that, when I was in high school, I discovered Watsuki's art, and I really liked the way that he could manage to draw female characters. And I think he's still my biggest influence up to this day, even if I don't read his mangas anymore. But yeah, visually, I would say Watsuki. Otherwise, when it's about like creating deep stories, I would say Hideo Yamamoto with Homunculus. And I would also say, what's the name? Mushishi. Mushishi. What is the name? Yuki. I can't remember the name of the mangaka, but she's a female mangaka. Mushishi. What's your name? Mushishi mangaka. Google Sensei. Yuki Urushibara. I really liked her style. I really like the way she tells stories as well. But otherwise, I'm a big fan of Takahashi Rumiko, the mangaka behind Maison Ikoku and Ranma. And yeah, that's it. And I like the GTO guy. Oh my God, what's his name again? What's his name? GTO, the mangaka GTO. Toru Fujisawa. Sorry, yeah. And I don't know if you guys have ever read GTO, but I can tell you, because I've been working in Japan as a teacher for almost 5 years, everything in this manga is the truth. This is such a great and true, of course it's a little bit exaggerated, but it's such a great and true representation of the young generation in Japan. And even if GTO was released, I think like in the early 2000s, I think up to this day, it's still very, very, still very similar. So yeah, these are my main influences.
What was the last anime we were talking about? GTO?
Yeah, GTO. A Great Teacher Onizuka.
Great, thank you. That sounds amazing.
She's probably gonna go back and watch it right now. On that same line of question, what do we say came to you first? The love for art or the love for anime?
I think it's the love for anime because, as I told you before, I could see people living like my family at home. So I felt like a connection. And then after that, I just wanted to find a way to express myself. And this is how I started drawing characters. But yeah, it's really my love for anime at first, I would say.
Cool, cool.
Great. Thanks for sharing. We have another question. We read in your page, tuanholdback.com, you integrate manga culture in rap music by collaborating with many world-renowned rappers in Japan and USA. Could you talk us more about this?
Yeah, of course. So actually, I know that now it's like a very popular thing. We had anime, including hip hop culture, such as Afro Samurai, Samurai Champloo, Tokyo Tribe as well. But before that, the other way around has never been done before. You never had like rap artists asking manga artists to do like to create visuals or to draw album covers for them. So yeah, when I say that I'm the first, or at least among the first, is because when I was like spending my time in New York and I was like meeting artists there, I mean, oh, you dude, you are the illustrator, you are the anime artist. Let's do something together. So this is the reason why that you could find my name, like in 2000s, the years 2000, collaborating with many rap artists. So, for example, I worked with Superfly. Superfly is a producer of Snoop Dogg. He worked with Tupac. He worked with Dr. Dre as well. I drew for Mobb Deep as well. So, well, if you know hip hop music a little bit, you probably know Mobb Deep. Like their song was featured in Eminem's movie Eight Mile as well. Um, and I work with some Wu-Tang affiliate artists as well. And up to this day, like now I'm mostly working with people in France because, as I told you before, hip hop and manga have been kind of mixed for like a couple of years in France now. It's very obvious, and yeah, I like saying that I'm among the first. I don't have like a timestamp or a proof or anything like that, but yeah, I think I was like, all right, you're asking me for a visual, but you got to know this is my style, this is what I do, because I really wanted anime culture in general to be known and appreciated by most people. So I know that right now it's so popular, but back in the days, like we were so badly considered, like, oh, you like manga and anime? Oh, get out of here, you stinky nerds, and all that. So I was always trying to fight against this cliche, and I think using a hip hop for that was a good way, actually.
Agreed. Thank you for sharing.
I do agree that there's a lot of stereotypes that come with certain interests. For example, anime
Yeah.
or certain very niche cultures.
Mhm.
You're immediately labeled as a nerd. So yeah, I can empathize with that. Um, we also read that you have a hentai art book for adults only that was released approximately October 2020. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I have two hentai art books actually. So the name of this book is it's called Hentai and it's art, and it's actually a meme coming from the TV series The Office. And I think this is coming from a canceled episode actually. So you can find it on YouTube. You can find that part on YouTube. And you have like one of the character, I forgot his name, but he's the big black dude, and he's reading a book, and someone is sticking it from his hands, and you have like all these hentai pictures falling on the floor, and he's like, "It's called hentai, and it's art." So I was like, "Oh my god, this is so great," because I kind of like the Office sense of humor, and I really appreciated that they kind of gave a shout out to hentai lovers. So I've always been into hentai actually, even as a kid. So I know it's not a good thing, but growing up as a kid, as an anime fan, I used to read a lot of video games magazines because back then we had no internet. So you have to realize that it was back in 1992. 1992, I was a kid. I was like 8 years old. And well, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but in many video games released in France back then, the writers were putting hentai pictures in the magazine, So one of the reasons why me and my friends, we really wanted to buy this magazine was to get these pictures. So of course, nothing too explicit, but you had like nudes, you had like boobies and all this kind of things. And well, we were kids, so we were so happy with that. And I just grew up also watching a lot of hentai anime, playing hentai games as well. And it came to the point that I don't know how, but hentai became kind of cool in a certain way. So I was very surprised because I remember when I started drawing hentai, many girls, like you can imagine, as I told you, Geneva is such a small city. And because people could see me in some traditional medias, newspapers and all that, like sometimes I was like having a beer with my friends in a bar and a girl would come to me and she would ask me, why do you draw these things? And I was like, again, and that would happen quite often. And then I would find myself justifying myself like, oh, it's not because I draw female characters like that I'm disrespecting women in general, that I cannot be a romantic, a polite, and a well-educated person. So that was very tiring. That was very tiring to the point that sometimes I was like, all right, I just don't want people to know that I draw hentai. And I don't know how, but it became like very cool and very popular. And actually, I had back then I had a Twitter hentai account, but I still have it. But my previous one was basically closed because it was too explicit, or I don't know what. And actually, many porn stars, they started following me, telling me they like my work. For example, my second art book, it's called Hentai and Its Art. The preface, how do you say that? The opening of the art book is written by Violet Myers. So, well, I hope there are no kids listening to this Twitter space. But well, Violet Myers, she's a huge and very popular porn star, and she liked my art. Like she told me, like she started following me and telling me, like, oh, I like your stuff. And then we kind of became internet buddies as well, and that's the reason why she wrote the opening text of my art book. And yeah, for me, it was just like, okay, now I feel it's kind of cool. Like hentai is kind of cool. You can meet a lot of girls, and this is what really surprised me, is that more than half of the sales at first, because I did a crowdfunding campaign to finance the book. More than half of the bidders of the people who funded the book were actually women. And now, most of the time, I receive messages from girls, women telling me that they really like it more often than guys. And even sometimes, for example, I was asked by a group of girls to draw hentai versions of them for a birthday gift. So I was like, oh wow, things really changed. Because from the days when I was having a drink and some girls that were coming at me like, oh, you're a pervert, you do that because you're a frustrated person, blah blah blah. And now it's like so much more open-minded, and I really appreciate it because I tend to think that sexuality, I don't want to say pornography, but I would say sexuality is always being put aside, but violence is okay. Like, it's fine to see people killing each other using guns, knives in movies and stuff like that. But when you see people using their tongues with each other, or doing physical things, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a no-no. But as I often say, even if it sounds very vulgar, I rather see a woman covered in cum than covered in blood. And that's it.
Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. And I mean, even if people don't like the concept of hentai, they do have to appreciate the skill that is behind it. Like, the art can be pretty cool. Would you mind perhaps explaining what is hentai to our listeners who perhaps are not familiar with the concept, with the word?
Of course, of course. So hentai actually comes from the kanji. So kanji are the Chinese letters that we use in Japanese. and it means abnormality or transformation. But you always have the idea of there's something strange. So this is why in Japanese, when you say that someone is hen, it means that this person is weird, in a creepy way. So in Japanese, when we say, "Oh, this guy is hentai," it doesn't mean that he likes tentacles or big boobies or anything like that. It just means that he's kind of weird and creepy, you know. But now, especially because when all the different parodies, the hentai parodies that we could find with characters coming from Naruto, One Piece, or Dragon Ball, we always use the word hentai. Oh, this is hentai. So it means that from the moment that you have porn anime and porn manga, this is hentai. So yeah, basically that's it. But in the Japanese current language, this is not how we use it.
Oh, I didn't know that. We also saw that you have commissions. What is doing commissions like? Is it fun being given like someone else's idea to portray?
It really depends. It depends on the people, and it depends on what you're being asked to do. Because to be honest with you, and this is why I really decided to try to make something with NFTs, is because most of my career as an illustrator, I have always worked for other people, like commissioned art. You do this kind of things, you draw this, you draw that. So I can do a lot of things with different styles. So some people they want a realistic portrait, some other hentai illustration, some other they want a comic style. I don't know, DC comic style illustration. So that's a great thing because thanks to that I could learn to do a lot of different styles. But in the end, when it comes to my own art and my own style and the things that I really want to draw, I have close to nothing. So this is the reason why that now being able to create NFTs and being able to hopefully attract more and more collectors and a nice community around my art, it's a way to really, really create what I want to create. So to be really honest with you, I'm getting more and more tired of drawing art commissions. So of course I need it because I need money and this is my job. But sometimes you can have very complicated customers. They don't want to pay you the proper way. They don't value your work. They don't respect you as a person. And it's kind of like, hey, okay, can you draw this for me? And you tell them your prices, and they say, what? Why is that expensive? I can find someone who can do that for $100 for me. And it's kind of a pain in the ass, always having to justify yourself, because most people they will always say, oh, I know someone who can do it cheaper. And now we have AI art as well, and they're like, yeah, why am I going to pay for that? I can ask the AI to generate something, and it's going to take like 10 minutes to find something that will really suit my taste. Why I would need someone like you who's going to take like 8 hours, 10 hours to create one piece of art? So it's like everything is a little bit difficult because even if I want to create my own art and try to create a brand as well, more and more, there's always something coming right behind you like, hey, I'm not going to let you do things the way you want. But yeah, I still have art commissions, but this is definitely not my favorite thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely empathize with the customer who always thinks he could always find someone who will do it better and cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting to the top of the hour, and we do have this one question that we love asking every single artist that we usually have on board.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that this is going to take a while to answer, so we might as well jump to that one. What would you say is the biggest challenge you've ever faced as an artist, and how have you overcome it?
Well, To be frankly honest with you, I think the biggest challenge is, of course, a financial challenge. It's really about money. It's really about the fact that are you able to find time to create, to be an artist? And I think that the world we live in, and especially in Japan, where you literally have no free time, when you are being asked to be a zombie and to be a good toy soldier for your company, there's no place for you to be yourself, to express yourself. So, of course, if my situation allowed me to gain enough money to have time to create more and more, I would be more than happy. But this is the real world, and unfortunately, in the real world, this is not how things work. And also, sometimes the most frustrating part is when you create and you do things and it takes you a lot of time, and you see that people, they just don't care about that. And
Yeah.
yeah, even people from your entourage, your friends, your family members, many of them, they're like, they just don't care. And even if you just ask for, oh, please like the picture, please share the picture, talk about me, because this is how it works. You do everything all by yourself. And how can you get your name known? How can you touch other people? Is just if there's some kind of community, people around you who have decided to support you. But when I started drawing, and it's still the case now, when I see like some of my closest friends who are not supportive, it hurts. But at the same time, I can understand because they don't owe you anything like, oh, I have to care about your art and about what you create. They have no obligation with that. However, I think what disgusts me the most is when you try to support a fellow artist, other people, you buy their merchandising, you share their work, you talk about them, and all this kind of stuff. But in return, they don't do anything. So of course, I'm not asking them to buy me a car or to buy my stuff, but it's just that they don't even care about the support that you provide. So this is really something that I think the biggest challenge is actually selfishness in a way. Is people don't care. They don't care from a financial point of view, and they don't even care from a artistic point of view. These are the two biggest challenges for me.
I do have a further question on that. We were speaking of stereotypes, and I do agree that sometimes the best someone can do without having a financial impact is to share and mouth to mouth recommendation. But do you think in this particular case we also have this stereotype? If I demonstrate or if I share this like that I have, even if it's just for a friend or whatever, people are gonna judge me the wrong way. I think this could be applicable on the circumstance that we're speaking of. Don't you think?
I agree with you. Of course, I will never ask a friend of mine like, yeah, why you don't share my hentai artwork?
Sure,
Why you
of
don't
course,
why you
right.
do, why you don't show it to your family and nephews? So so of course you cannot do that. But I think it's maybe because my friends, they come from a different generation. I mean, I'm not from the internet generation. So they don't have like this mechanism, like they know that they need to retweet or like. They don't even use like social medias. So of course I'm very happy when I receive a message on WhatsApp or a message on Facebook Messenger, and they tell me, "Hey, dude, I really like your last artwork." I'm like, really, thank you so much. But if you really want to support, please help to spread the word. Even if I really appreciate that they send me private messages or even sometimes they call me and stuff like that. But now with the new generation, people using TikTok, people using Twitter, everything goes so fast.
Yeah.
And when you create content, it's very hard to catch people's attention unless there are tons of people who talk about you, they retweet your work and stuff like that, and it gets kind of viral in a certain way. So yeah, I don't know if it's gonna happen someday, but I'm trying to educate my friends. Like, you know what? If you want to help, there's always a good way to help by just doing these simple manipulations.
I agree. I do agree with everything you just said. I was just playing devil's advocate, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, of course. And you're absolutely right because I probably do the same to many friends of mine who have maybe their own businesses or they're creative people as well. And I'm just like, it's not that I don't care, but it's just that I'm living my life and I cannot be like 24/7 behind my friend's shoulder, like, oh yeah, I'm going to share it right away. So in the end, I know that I cannot judge and I cannot blame people for that because we all have our own agendas and we are all busy.
Well, thanks for your answer. And those were all the questions we had prepared for you today, actually. Is there anything else you would like to share with us before we leave?
No, I don't think so. But thank you very much for having me. And well, I hope that people who listen to to this Twitter space um, will check my creations and what I do in general, if possible.
Absolutely. Anyone here listening, if you can, go and follow him, check his art. It's pretty cool. If you don't know hentai and you maybe don't like the concept of it, don't be afraid of it. The art can be really cool, so don't be scared. And yeah, follow him in all his. Where can we find you? You're in Twitter, you're in Instagram?
Yes, everything is at Air Force One. Air Force One. So Air Force One NFT is my NFT account, but otherwise, on Instagram, TikTok, everything is just Air Force One.
And that's it for today.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Tuan, for accepting our invitation. It was a great interview.
No, thank you so much for your time. Thanks to Anime.Limited, and see you guys soon.
Absolutely.